Welcome to Fleet Auto News Podcast. I'm Caroline Falls, and today I'm speaking with Geoff Atkinson, Business Development Manager of Everty. He's going to tell us what Everty do in the EV space. I'm going to ask him about fleets transitioning to EV and how Everty can play a role in that. This year the podcast has a sponsor, Sofico Services, and we are grateful to them for making the show possible. We'll hear from them during the broadcast. Now I'll introduce Geoff. Hello, Geoff, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Caroline. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your podcast. Everybody's very excited to be able to talk about our organisation and the things we're doing in the fleet management space.
Well, that's my first question. I want to know, what's your spiel at Everty? What do you actually do? And, particularly with fleets.
Certainly. Caroline, Everty is relatively unique. We provide EV solutions to businesses, obviously to fleets, but we're unique in the fact that we provide or have developed our own software platform. So that's been developed over a 5-year period, so a significant amount of investment's gone into that. And that allows us to provide a complete package to our clients. So we can go in and we can provide the fleet software to manage if we've got existing EV charging stations within their business. But also, too, we can work with the client to develop a complete turnkey solution so we can understand what their requirements are and match their needs with the appropriate EV charging hardware, and then obviously tie that together with our software solution.
And what about yourself? How long have you been with Everty? What does your role entail? And maybe where you came from, your background?
Yeah, certainly. Look, my background is intertwined with fleet management. When I came out of university, I started with Custom Fleet many years ago. I've had the point of having my own fleet management company as an agent for LeasePlan for a number of years, and then worked with the likes of Interleasing. But I've also had the opportunity to work in the manufacturer side. So I've spent 10 years working for automotive OEMs, which includes the Ford Motor Company and Mitsubishi Motors. And I've worked in fleet sales within Ford and dealer management within Mitsubishi. So it all sort of comes together. And I've been with Everty now for about 6 months. So I see the current role and working with Everty has been a pinnacle and combination of those experiences. So a good understanding of what fleet managers need to do on a day-to-day basis. I understand the technology and what's happening within the manufacturer world. Been there as part of the Outlander PHEV rollout across the Mitsubishi network, and then getting a great understanding of a very exciting space that is EV charging and supporting the brilliant technology that's coming through in electric vehicles.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll ask you shortly about sort of how you approach a business, etc. But let's just get a better understanding of the nuts and bolts, like the hardware or software that Everty actually do supply. Like maybe give us some more technical details of the product and service.
Yes, certainly. So as I mentioned earlier, Everty has our own software program, and what that does, it gives the fleet manager control of those charging assets or charging stations. So like fleet managers have gone through many changes in their careers and as the industry's evolved, and this transition to an EV environment is certainly part of that evolution. So whereas our fleet managers were obviously responsible for total cost of ownership and making sure the vehicles were fit for purpose, and obviously working for negotiating the best deals on supplying those vehicles, they now are coming into contact with an area that is new to them, and understanding things like electric vehicle infrastructure and charging infrastructure, and then that has a crossover and a matrix with facilities management. So I think their role is becoming a lot broader, and what Everty tries to do with our software program is really give them the tools to be able control those assets, to be able to monitor those assets so we can see the actual usage on an individual charging station. It allows us to monetise those charges as well. So in some environments, you want to make the charger public so that the public can use that to charge their vehicles, as well as your own corporate vehicles be able to charge them as well. So you need to work out a billing platform that provides that flexibility, and the Everty platform allows for that. But also, too, in managing those assets, you need to be able to control them. So that if there is an issue, you get, obviously, a fault reading comes through to the appropriate person, whether that's a fleet manager or an operations person, and then be able to go in and actually control that charger. That might be as simple as just a simple reset on that charger, like you do when you reboot a computer, or it might be actually taking that charger offline or stopping a charge or restarting a charge for a client. So one of the situations that a client has had is when a employee has gone to charge their vehicle and they've used their RFID card to start the charger. They've gone off to a coffee shop and for whatever reason they've lost their RFID card and had to leave, but couldn't disconnect their vehicle because it was connected to the charger. So with our operating system, they were able to contact the operator, their fleet manager, and that fleet manager was able to actually go into that individual charger, stop the charge and disconnect the charge plug so that the driver could go on their way. So they're the kind of tools that are incorporated within our software and makes us unique. We're completely agnostic with our software. As long as the charger uses the OCPP protocol, which is pretty much the standard protocol across most chargers, our system can be integrated.
Oh, okay. So when you approach like a business or they approach you, who do you talk to? I guess I'm just curious about what is the job function of that person. Who has the responsibility for sort of bringing in the new infrastructure? Is it fleet management or the IT department or building and property management? Who do you talk to?
Well, certainly with electric vehicles becoming more prevalent, it is changing the way that we interact with organisations. I would say traditionally it was always sort of a fleet manager that had responsibility for the motor vehicles and everything that went along with the motor vehicle fleet within an organisation. But sort of as I mentioned earlier, we're finding now that is becoming a more of a matrix arrangement where obviously we've got the electric vehicles and the fleet manager is responsible for the selection of those vehicles, but then the infrastructure that's required to support those vehicles is including now your facilities managers. So the facility managers need to be aware of the charges that are coming on board, and they'll be integrated with their electrical system and building management system within a facility because as you start putting charges in, they're obviously drawing down electricity from that building. And the last thing you want to do is actually brown out a site because you've drawn down too much electricity, so similar to having a localised blackout. So we work with the facilities managers to understand the electrical capacity of the site, and we put in place actually load management infrastructure as well and software on those charges so that they never go over a point of causing a situation where a building will drop electricity or lose electricity because it's effectively blown a fuse. So we're now in contact with the facilities managers. There's also a HR element as well. Obviously, staff becoming aware of electric vehicle technology and also too with the electric vehicle chargers. Some organisations may be providing that for their employees, charging a minimum rate to do that, or it might be free, but they still need to keep a record of who's using those chargers.
We'll be back after a short break for a word from our sponsor, Sofico Services.
Sofico is a world-leading provider of enterprise software for the automotive leasing, finance, and mobility industry. For more than 30 years, international leasing companies and OEMs count on Sofico's expertise and technology to help them transform innovative product concepts into streamlined business processes and engaging customer experiences. With more than 370 experts, 8 offices on 4 continents, and an annual growth averaging 15%, Sofico is perfectly positioned to help its customers succeed in a rapidly changing market where electrification, shared fleets, and multimodal mobility challenge us and our customers to play a pioneering role. Continuous investment in people, innovation, and leading-edge technology is the basis for continued growth and success.
So when a business is transitioning from the internal combustion engine to EVs, and particularly those with fleets I'm talking about, they're used to grabbing a whole lot of data about fuel usage and mileage, that's been driven, etc., from their, say, fuel card provider. And now where are they going to get that comparable info from you? Is that the sort of data that they fetch from your service?
Yeah. Well, look, with the Everty platform, we do register all the transactions, whether they're a monetised transaction or a non-monetised transaction on the charger. So the fleet manager or the HR manager or the accounts person can see that data directly from our reporting system. So that's available to the client. In regards to motor vehicle mileage, and you did right. I mean, traditionally with an ICE engine, everyone's familiar with the fuel card that they had allocated to them with their company car, and they use that at the service station and they put in their odometer reading. That's a little bit trickier at the moment with the technology on EV charging stations. We don't literally have that technology to punch in an odometer reading. What we're finding, though, to fill that gap is a lot of clients are using the technology that you mentioned earlier, where they can actually get the live readings from the actual vehicle. So telematics is perhaps becoming more important as you start rolling out an EV fleet.
So apart from fleet management, are there any other sort of like business sectors or professions that you're targeting with your service and product?
Yeah, certainly. Look, we're working with a tier 1 fleet management company at the moment in working and integrating our system into their overall fleet management software and their service that they can provide to their client. We also, too, are dealing with an array of organisations. We are dealing with a lot of property organisations. So as you can imagine, Charter Hall is one of our significant partners and we're working with them in rolling out electric vehicle charging stations within their buildings and tailoring our service as well to what their tenants need. So each one of their tenants has a different or unique requirement. And so with our software, we're able to manage and tailor the service to their needs. So as I said earlier, it's a very broad matrix that we're dealing with. And it is certainly a lot of fleet managers that we're talking to, but also too there's facility property managers as well.
You mentioned earlier that Everty's around 5 years old, so that sounds like a bit of an old guy in the Australian EV industry. Can you maybe give a few pointers for fleet managers who are about to embark on the EV journey, how to find their way in an industry that's sort of new and jumping with a lot of new players?
Yes, certainly. Look, I think within the Australian industry, and from my experience with dealing with fleet managers, I think the basic skills and the techniques that the fleet managers apply when they're looking at total cost of ownership and fit for purpose are still basic skills that need to be applied when they're looking at, obviously, transitioning to an electric vehicle. The vehicle has to be appropriate for the use that it's intended. The pricing on electric vehicles, we're seeing that come down. And also, too, that fleet managers now need to be aware of what government support's available to them. So in New South Wales, we've got a very strong incentive program that the New South Wales government has put in place. There's also federal programs as well. So in calculating really what the real cost of or acquisition of an electric vehicle, there's a lot more things that fleet managers now need to look at. And then you add to that, as we mentioned earlier, and what we're talking about today is the actual EV charging technology. It's certainly changing very fast, and there's a broad range of suppliers in the market as EVs become now sort of commonplace. We've reached that tipping point within the industry where it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, and there's a lot of players who are coming into the Australian market.
Yeah, the landscape's definitely changed. I mean, it was only a year or two ago it was more speculative. Now it's sort of as if it's definitely happening. Let's just have a look at some of the established brands that Everty is sort of associated with at the moment. I see the Brisbane-based battery charger supplier Tritium is among them. Who else are you linked up with?
Yeah, look, Everty made a clear decision at the start of the organisation. We would partner with and work with Tier 1 equipment suppliers. So the reason we do that is we ensure that when we're working with a client, that we're recommending and providing infrastructure that is there to support them for the long term. So in the unforeseen circumstance that there is an issue a year or two down the track, that the supplier is there to back up warranties, to provide service, to provide maintenance. So that's critical for us. So you're right, we've got a number of different suppliers that we're working with that sort of fill that Tier 1 supplier, like Schneider Electric, ABB, Delta, and as you mentioned, Tritium. But we're also always looking to see who's coming into the marketplace as well, new technologies. So we'll look at new suppliers, and what we'll also do is certify that equipment to make sure that it operates with our software system or platform to ensure that it's a complete package that we're delivering to a client.
Well, it's been great to hear all about Everty today, and just to finish up, it's nice to end on an upbeat note, and I know from talking with you earlier before the introduction today, I know you're excited to be part of this industry as it fans out. So in your own words, how excited are you, and do you see Australia catching up in this space anytime soon?
Oh, exactly, Caroline. I don't think there's any more exciting space to be in. As I mentioned earlier, it's a combination of both my fleet management and my experience within a manufacturer to be in I guess it's fair to say that it is a once-in-a-generation change. I mean, we've seen many changes within the automotive industry and fleet management. We've seen the transition of different fuel types, from petrol to diesel to LPG, and a few of your fleet managers listening today will possibly remember those transitions that they had to go through. And we saw the change too as we saw fleets shift from from passenger vehicles into SUVs and making that transition. And this transition is another part of that, but I think this is a very significant change as we move away from ICE engines to electrical vehicles and everything that incorporates around that and the changes that are happening within the fleet space. So I feel incredibly fortunate to be working with a wonderful team at Everty. We're a very dynamic and incredibly experienced team, and being able to deliver as part of Everty a first-class service to fleet managers and to the industry. And we're always here to help and support and provide information and education, and that's a critical part of our role. Is helping to educate the industry, and we're more than welcome if any of your listeners would like to make contact with Everty. We're more than happy to take their calls and help them.
No, I'm glad you raised that point. I mean, that's what it's all about at the moment, I think, is just this show as well, just helping to educate, all the people that are within our industry. And I share your excitement, and I just want to say thank you very, very much for being with us today, Geoff, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Caroline, and thank you very much for the effort you put into putting your shows together. I know they're a great benefit to the industry, and Everty is very proud and very happy to be a part of that.
You've been listening to Fleet Auto News Podcast. It was edited and produced by Isabella Fiorentino. Thank you again to our new sponsor, Sofico Services. It's great to have you on board. The original theme music for this podcast was created by Isabella Fiorentino. You can follow us on Spotify. Just search for Fleet Auto News. We're also on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. Our website is fleetautonews.com, where you can get all our stories, videos and podcasts. Until next time, drive safely and take care.